on the subway. This older gentleman was being hassled by this group of like 7 or 8 teens. And I was like, yo, guys, cut that out. And they decided, all right, if he's not going to get it, then you're going to get it. And boy, did they give it to me.
That was Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz last January describing an attack he says happened as he rode the New York subway and tried to intervene when multiple teens were harassing another man. The teens were since arrested, and it follows what seems to be a troubling trend on public transit. I mean, just take a look at this video. It is from last November. Surveillance images from the Regional Transportation District show a man collapsing after departing a train. Warren Martin says a group beat him up after he called out their cussing just minutes before.
You know, not in front of the baby. And apparently they just didn't like that I had something to say. They started throwing blows.
And most recently, the death of Jordan Neely in a New York City subway train has captured national attention after multiple passengers restrained Neely, and a Marine veteran, Daniel Penny, held Neely in a chokehold until he went limp, as can be seen in video footage of the incident. Neely reportedly suffered from a mental health episode before the deadly encounter. As the legal system sorts out that case, we looked into the safety of multiple public transit systems. And as it turns out, data reveals a challenging story where uneasy riders, police presence, mental health resources, and homelessness all intersect. A national outcry ignited by the death of Jordan Neely, who was put in a deadly chokehold on a New York City subway in early May. The suspect is facing manslaughter charges.
Jordan Neely did not deserve to die. And all of us must work together to do more for our brothers and sisters struggling with serious mental illness.
But a heated debate surrounds the case, with questions over law enforcement, the homelessness crisis, and public safety, particularly on mass transit. Through his attorneys, defendant Daniel Penny released a statement noting, quote, "We hope that out of this awful tragedy will come a new commitment by our elected officials to address the mental health crisis on our streets and subways." The attorney for the Neely family told the press, quote, "We don't want anybody afraid on the subway, but we want people to look at those that may be there in that situation and say, why?" Fears of violence on public transit have gripped cities across America. Recent numbers from Bay Area Rapid Transit show 22% of residents surveyed avoid public transit due to safety concerns. For 2022, the Chicago Transit Authority's Customer Satisfaction Survey showed a nearly 30% drop in safety satisfaction on trains and buses compared to 2016. Even though nationwide FBI data shows violent crime rates are generally 40 to 60% lower than the spike in the early 90s, there's been a noted uptick in recent years on transit. According to data from local officials and transit authorities, a number of major cities have been seeing a rise in crimes on public transit even before the start of the pandemic. In September of 2022, a man was hit on the head with a wine bottle as he rode a CTA train in Chicago. And in early May, San Francisco Bay Area riders reported a man slashed a passenger with a cleaver. The incidents come despite the increase of police funding across nearly all U.S. city budgets, which often includes a rise in police presence on transit. The number of police on public transit has been steadily rising in major cities since before COVID in response to previous spikes in crime. Deborah Johnson, the CEO of Denver's Regional Transportation District, told Scripps News the general environment since COVID may be a cause for the rise of violence.
Coming out of COVID, just across the board, it seems as people aren't as kind and generous as they used to be. And recognizing that people are dealing with a myriad of things that we know nothing about.
Other experts point to low ridership as a contributing factor. Empty stations and trains make criminals feel emboldened. The American Public Transportation Association, which looks at all public transit data across the U.S. and Canada, shows just how big the difference is, a drop that has barely begun to recover. And finally, some rider safety concerns are related to the homelessness crisis, despite the fact that evidence is mixed on links between homelessness and crime. Public transit has at times served as a space for the unsheltered. In 2022, New York City released its subway safety plan, saying subways are, quote, not meant to house individuals or provide recreational space. It also says enforcement without short and long-term support, from mental health care to housing, will not solve this challenge. As housing costs rise, shelters fill up, and health resources shrink in city budgets, and many experiencing homelessness see public transit as a last safe place to stay.